Hi everyone, today we have here Ronald, who is an expert in manufacturing, and now he's an expert in Odoo as well. So he knows about manufacturing and Odoo, and he's going to tell us some of the previous experience that he had in this industry and how he applies that knowledge into the system. So if you want to start with your previous experience, feel free to go.
I used to work for two companies before I joined Gravit. For 10 years I worked with a manufacturing company, mainly machine building, but equipment. And then for 2 years I worked as a logistic manager for a manufacturer of electronic devices. Within those companies also I worked with 3 different ERP systems. For the longest period for the first company I worked for was with SAP, and also we did an SAP implementation there, which is quite interesting. So I was on a different end of the table at that time, but I think it was really interesting. I learned a lot about business process and how to approach them from an ERP implementation point of view. That was really interesting. But after the 2 years with the last company, I started to think, okay, what do I really like? So that's why I really like that position or do the implementation. And I think in the meantime I got the knowledge and experience to instead of implementing it in your own company, to help others to do the implementation. And I started to think about, okay, but what do I want to do that with SAP or one of the other systems? But then I found out about Odoo. I haven't heard of it before. But I really liked the intuitivity of the system and how it works.
Oh, that's interesting. I want to stop there for a second.
Yeah.
So for now, we can safely say that you started to learn about ERPs from the inside.
Yeah.
So you were just working in a company that specializes in manufacturing.
Yeah.
And then because you went through the implementation of an ERP, that's how you learn about how to structure your knowledge into business processes.
Yeah.
Okay, and then that was SAP, if I understood correctly.
Mainly,
okay. And then at some point you started to play with Odoo, and then basically the main thing that caught your eye was the user-friendliness of the system. Okay.
That's a really important thing, especially if you compare it to like SAP. SAP, of course, it's a really large company with a well-known structure. Which works really well for really big companies, multinationals and stuff like that. But the thing is that there's a really strict structure, and also makes it really difficult to configure. So not even do customization, but even configure to the needs of the customer. That's quite an issue. As soon as you need something else or just a little bit different, then it takes it's quite a process to change that. And I think it's the big difference with Odoo, is that you have quite, as a user yourself, you have quite some possibilities already to do some configuration to make it better fitting to your need without changing the entire structure of the flow within Odoo. I think that's really a big con of Odoo. And of course, Odoo still has some development areas where they can improve, because it's quite a young system in comparing to
the big players.
The big players. So of course there's still some work to do, and I think there's still room for improvement. But the basic needs for a manufacturer are in Odoo already.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
I'm actually curious about the differences between SAP and Odoo.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned that so far, Odoo is better for user-friendliness, but also said that SAP is more focused for large corporations and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to understand a bit more, what do you think it is large corporations, or where do you draw the limit between one system and another? I mean, if you had to recommend it, where do you stop recommending Odoo and then start with SAP, and why?
Yeah, I think as Odoo is capable of doing it for big companies, and indeed it's if you want to quantify what is a big company,
yes,
if you want to,
for sure,
where I work with was a multinational with 50 offices worldwide, roughly around 7,000 or 8,000 employees and stuff like that. Because that's also, with Odoo you have quite some flexibility, and if you compare it to SAP, it's really fixed how you need to use it. And of course, with Odoo, you want to use the standard as well as most as possible. But as flexibility within Odoo, those large multinational companies find it difficult because of rights and access, stuff like that. But then again, in Odoo, you have a lot of things you can configure as well.
Okay, so as far as I understand, what you're saying is that SAP is not just the software itself, it's more like a list of protocols that you should follow as a large corporation.
Yeah.
So it's more like they give you a manual on how to operate your company.
Yeah.
Whereas Odoo is a bit more free to go, you can modify pretty much anything you want, but I mean, you want to use as much as possible the native version of Odoo, but you are more flexible, and that comes also with possible problems, because if you divert from the main way to operate the system, then maybe you're going to find some, potential errors that you didn't think about. That's what I guess you're trying to say.
Yeah, this the bigger a company gets, the more tight your protocols need to be. So that's why the really big multinationals want to squeeze out that flexibility. And on the other hand, then that's if you look into those really big multinationals, I think that's maybe a con for Odoo and a pro for SAP. But if you look to a little bit smaller companies, like 3 or 5 offices or something like that, with a number of employees fits those numbers, I think then it's really user-friendly, and that's where, of course, there is some balance between flexibility and the size of your office, and that's what you need to find. But then again, if you're, for most companies, you can, with Odoo also you can scale up, and of course also with user rights and access, you can modify quite a bit to keep. To have people do only what they need and what they're allowed to do. So,
understood. Okay, so far you told us about your experience in manufacturing. Then we discussed a bit the differences between Odoo and SAP. And now I would like to know some story or something interesting about an implementation in Odoo.
I think what's interesting is that we're doing we just started two new projects as well, and I think
manufacturing related, I guess.
One is manufacturing related, the other is more project business. But we see, of course, eventually what they will use is a little bit different. But we see for both projects, we see the same starting point. Right now, they use separate packages, so they still use their Outlook or their email for receiving a sales request, or at least to get a request for a quote. They're using Excel for making configurator or to calculate the right prices. They have an Excel file for the production planning and stuff like that. It's
Excel's everywhere. For each process.
And you see the info is shared. The access is divided over the departments. They all have their own way of working within their own department. So that's really a difficulty right now for those two companies, is that they have the information somewhere, but it's not within one system, and that makes it quite difficult for them to know if sales agrees something with the customer. This is the configuration, this product is what I need. So
they've got disconnected information, you could say, and then very hard to configure the access rights, I'm guessing. Because they have different tools in different places, so then they don't have like a strict control. Or even they have on email, they have a configuration. That's what they discuss with the customer. That's what sales does. And okay, this is what I need. This product has to have this and this and this requirement. But then, of course, manufacturing needs to produce that product to the same requirement. For sure. And what you often see then is that information is lost within the flow in your company. Okay. And that's difficult to maintain that. And they both are really happy already what we're seeing right now, because we're putting everything within one system, within Odoo, and that flow is through the apps within Odoo that's connected. Defining everything, because you said we're putting everything in Odoo. So defining in words like parts of the flow. Yeah. So we can understand. Yeah, that's indeed the case. That if sales sells something, in the next steps of the flow, if you go from that to a project or to manufacturing,
that information is still stored there. And because within Odoo everything is linked within the system, from operations you get access to that first information. You don't have to go into someone's personal email folder, but you have the access to the same system. So you have the same information through the flow in the processes within your company, and that's really, I think, the main advantage the customer sees already, although we just started with the project.
Okay, thank you. You mentioned many times that the end goal is to have everything in one system, but we don't know why people want that. So from your perspective, why do companies need to have everything within only one system?
It's really important for companies to know where they stand. For example, what I gave as an example, if you get sales is working from the mailbox, if they win or lose a sale, that's not tracked. It's not traceable. They have no idea, okay, we lost something or we won a few orders. Is it going good or is it bad? That's what I'm missing. And by putting all your steps within Odoo, all the data is stored, and eventually all the data can be pulled up into an overview, to a report. And what you have with Odoo is that you can, you have your standard reports already in Odoo, where you can, by that way, or by using filters to have your overview, or grouping by win or loss, or your production, your manufacturing orders, or in any area in Odoo, you have standard reports. And even if that's not enough, still you have with sheets and you have with dashboarding, you can pull all the information from all the data and information from the system, and to present them in a way you like, to have that overview. If we're doing good, if we're doing well on manufacturing, if we're running on time, if we're delivering on time, if we win or lose a sales deal, what was the reason? All that information is within Odoo, and with all information which is available in Odoo, you can pull them up and present them to you.
Okay, so I guess the summary is that you gain control on your company, because you can take a look at the metrics or specific info that you need in order to take decisions.
Yeah,
am I right?
Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
Thank you. When it comes to manufacturing, I'm guessing what most companies look for is control on the dates, so time tracking on how they're going to produce, when is it going to be ready, that kind of stuff. And also, I'm guessing stock replacement, sorry, not replacement, but replenishment. So how they're going to provide for the manufacturing processes. So can you expand a bit on that topic?
That's again falling back on having everything in Odoo. All related parts, if you're talking about using components for your manufacturing, everything can trigger something else. So if you're having a bill of material, of course, it can trigger planned consumption, which again can trigger a request for purchasing that part to replenish your stock indeed.
Automatically.
You can choose if you want to do it manually or you can do it automatically.
Okay.
So it depends, if you have like low value parts, which you can say, okay, I just want to purchase them, but maybe you also have really high value that you always want to have your manager or something to approve it before you buy it. You have quite some standard configuration to do that on multiple levels. So that makes it really, by configuration, really good to make it fit for your company. To have the replenishment in such a way that you want to use it and you can use it.
Okay.
And it works for you.
And when it comes to dates?
That's planned as well. And also, if you mean like dates, what you want to do, of course, you have a time tracking within manufacturing, so you know what's produced and when it's produced. But also the use of products, everything is tracked within the system. And that's also from a financial point of view really interesting, because you can see which product has been used when and for which manufacturing order, or when you have received it from your supplier. So you can track your flow of the movement of parts or components or products.
From the start to the end. So what I mean is that, for example, from when you make a sale, you already know when the product is going to be available.
Yeah.
When you're going to finish the production.
Too.
So then you know how to guarantee a date to the customer.
Yeah.
In these kind of conversations, we focus a lot on people who take decisions, like top managers and those fat cats, you could say. But if you're a daily operator, like someone that is actually connecting devices or doing some manual work, how does Odoo benefit that person?
I think again, the user friendliness is not only for the first customer to which we for who we do the implementation, but also for the end user. Like within manufacturing, you have the shop floor app, which is actually the next step in user friendliness, because you can configure that in such a way that the operator only sees the steps he needs to process. You can give him information from drawings for what he has to construct, but also you can build in some quality checks, where you can also instruct what they need to check and how they need to check it, or they can make a picture of the product they have produced or some other quality documents, and also they can track their time, for example. With this, which is actually just like pushing play, pause, or stop.
So what you're trying to say is that all the interactions that they have to do with the system is in an easy interface. So it's more like they just press one button and then they jump into.
Of course, often in manufacturing, when you're on your workstation, you don't often want to have a PC or stuff like that, but also you can quite easily use it on for example, a tablet. And especially with the shop floor app, it's really made for that use, and that's of course quite easy to have a standard tablet on your workstation, just on a mount, where you can just click on, okay, I'm working on this right now, or you can still scan what you're working on if you have like a ticket you have to work on, and then again, do your quality checks, register the time spent on that specific task. So that makes it really easy for the user, at least for manufacturing, for the operator to work with Odoo.
Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed the interview, and for me that was very eye-opening. We covered some of the main areas about manufacturing and the questions that the customers ask for the first time when they talk to us. So Ronald, thank you so much for your time. We'll be in touch for next interviews. Thank you.
Thank you very much.